Welcome to the 2016 Film Independent Forum. Miss Effie T. Brown is an integral member of the Film Independent family. She started out as a producer of films such as Real Women Have Curves and Jane Campion in The Cut. Since then, she has become a prolific producer of independent films, most recently, Dear White People, and she has produced over 19 films. So please help me welcome Effie T. Brown.
Woo! So I'm just going to tell on myself a little bit. I'm really nervous. You guys know that, like, you buy me a chicken dinner and a plane ticket and I will talk at anything, but this, you know what I mean? But this is really something for me. It's a really awesome experience, and it's an honor, and it's not lost upon me because I am grateful that Loyola Marymount University is sponsoring this keynote and sponsoring part of the day. And I went to Loyola. I don't know how, oh yeah, woo! That's what we're talking about. But I went to Loyola a really long time ago. Like, we were still threading cameras with 16mm film. I was rocking a Jerry curl and pager. Like, that's how long it was, you know? But I just want to thank you, not only for today, but I want to thank you for a great education and also teaching me the art and craft of filmmaking. So I thank you, and thank you for this. I also want to, all right, I'm just going to go in and say it. As soon as I graduated from Loyola, I landed firmly on the doorstep of Film Independent in 1993. And I never left. And they don't have a policy for kicking out people, so I'm a lifer. They can't get rid of me. But it was here that I got my career was started. I was in the first class of Project Involve. I have taught labs. I've been given the opportunity and the privilege to mentor people. I've had films at the LA Film Festival. I won a Spirit Award here. And I have now the privilege of serving, and you guys are gonna stop clapping, it's gonna get real in a minute. You're like, oh, are we gonna keep clapping for her? Like, what's up? No, and now I had the pleasure of serving on the board. And now I'm doing a keynote. So it's really an honor, and I thank you. And I love this organization. And even though I'm nervous and I'm freaked out, I also feel really comfortable speaking to you because I consider Film Independent my home. And I'm sure you all are members. And because you all are members, I feel that I'm a part of your tribe. So I'm really happy to be here to speak with you. And it's a trip, I was thinking about that I've been here at Film Independent for 23 years. And then I had this moment that is the longest relationship I have ever had. Besides my parents, and they can't kick me out either. So maybe there's like a theme there, I don't know. But I love Film Independent, and thank you. So anywho, I'm gonna try to keep this brief. Good luck, it's running about 30 or so minutes, whatever. But so I'm gonna try to I have my friend Nicole is in the audience, who's gonna tell me to wrap it up if I start spending too much time on something like I am right now, so I'm telling you, okay, good. Okay, so that's how we're rolling. So I've been coming to these conferences and labs and conversations over the years, and I loved them, and I soaked up everything that I could. But when I was preparing for this, I was reflecting on what types of keynotes and conversations affected me the most when I was on the come up. And the ones that affected me the most, or I found most useful, were the ones where people got real. Were the people that had the lives that on paper, that I thought that I wanted. Like, I wanted everything that they had. And it was when these people tore back the mask, and they lifted the curtain, and they showed us what it was really like to be a working person in Hollywood. And it was in these moments that I saw the horror and the beauty that often stood side by side. That's what I got the most out of. So I'm gonna try to do that today. But before I do that, I'm gonna need you guys to do something too, okay? I'm gonna need you to quiet your mind. I'm gonna need you to relax. I'm gonna need you to know that every person in this room has a dream that is manifesting into a calling. You, yes, you have a story to tell that is worthy. You have experience to share. You have a valid point of view. And you should know this. Because I used to sit right where you were, and I couldn't listen to speakers. Because in my head, I had this running narrative of compare and despair. I had it with the speakers, I had it with the audience members, I had it with my peers, and I would say things like, I can't wait to be where they are, and then it would turn into, but wait, why aren't I there? What's wrong with me? He or she seems way more pulled together than I am. I felt all weird with chipped nails and a muffin top because I didn't look or have any of the same experiences that I thought you had. You didn't seem to have the struggle that I had, and that would fuck me up. Sorry, I curse. That would really mess me up. Because I thought that there was something wrong with me. And I was having such a hard time of why I wasn't making it, and what did making it look like? And will I ever make it? And then am I a fraud? That was a big one. Am I a fraud? And then I had the one that was really devastating. Do I deserve to be here? Whew. That was a big one. And that mental mind fuck, and that's exactly what I'm going to call it, that mental mind fuck is exhausting. And it kept me apart from instead of a part of. So for the next few minutes, we're not going to judge ourselves. We're not going to compare ourselves to other people's outsides. We aren't going to be afraid of not making it or not having the right combination of stuff that we think we need in order to be successful in Hollywood, okay? We're going to settle in and we're going to get comfortable with being artists and storytellers or stewards of the business. For the next few moments, we're going to assume the position of power and place as whatever our dream made manifest has called us to do. You with me? All right, I want to hear, okay, good. So know that, okay, it's going to get going. But I just want you to know that you belong here. There's a place for you in this business. And trust me when I say that in my 20-something years of thugging it out in this business, I can guarantee you that everyone in this room, everyone who's going to get up here behind me later on today and speak, and people who are hosting those tables, are doing the best they can with what they have. Everybody is trying to not let that disappointment, that struggle, that perceived lack of limitation not turn into a full-fledged failure. No, here's a secret, guys. Nobody has it together. Nobody has all the answers. So today we're just going to be storytellers, the ones that are making our dreams manifest. All right, I'm getting a little... So I remember in my 20s... Sorry. I remember in my 20s, I was thinking that when and I was entering the business at that time, and I thought, when I'm 33, I will be a full-grown woman, and grown-ass woman is what I call a grown-ass woman, and I would have my Oprah Winfrey and Jerry Bruckheimer mashup of a career. Now, why I chose 33, I always call that my Jesus year. That's the year that he died. So I was like, it's a good year, right? So, word, I'm 44. I am a grown-ass woman. But it has become apparent to me that I'm not supposed to have it together all day, every day. Because it's in the messiness, it's in that struggle, it's in my lovely aversion to change that I managed to learn a few things, a few brutal things. But I also managed to make peace with a few things. And I wish I'd learned these things a little earlier because it would have spared me a lot of heartache and humiliation. But I will say I am grateful that most of this happened before Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat because I would not have been able to live that shit down, trust. So I took the highlights of these lessons and I distilled them down into about 3 things that I'd like to share today. Okay, so these are my personal 3 things. It might not be for everybody, but these are some of the things that I learned. And the first one was compare and despair is a useless time suck. No one is together as they seem, and no one holds the answers. We already talked about that a few minutes before. See, I just slipped that one in there, you know, sort of stealth. The next one is called the what and the why. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about is embracing your breakdown. There's a certain grace in failure. So let's start with the what and the why. So have you ever asked yourself this question? What are you doing here, and why are you doing it? And I'm talking about in the context of this business. I can't help you with the other stuff. I'm just talking the context of this business. I want you to ask yourself, what are you doing here, and why are you doing it? You have to know the answer to this. Because if you don't know the answer to this, then chances are you're going to take an insurmountable amount of shit while you are trying to pursue your career. If you don't know what is important to you, then how will you be able to work towards what will fulfill you? It's so easy to get knocked off your path by those who can commandeer you into their what and why if you don't know what your what and why is. Like, this is where when you wake up one day and you say, how did I get here? This is where you're spending the majority of your time on something and someone that is giving you no joy, no peace, no fulfillment. This is when you realize that you are surrounded by things that are sucking your soul out of you. Have you guys never had that job before that you thought was going to get you somewhere, and then you looked up and you were like, I hate all of you. What am I doing here? That's what I'm talking about, okay? And I know that, and to be real, I know that that sometimes we got to take a gig. It's a means to an end. I get that. I know that the landlord does not care about your what and why. And I will tell you from experience a little later that JP Morgan Chase does not care about your what and why. They want their money. Okay? But that gig, we have to take it in stride, is a means to an end. It is not our purpose. Our what and our why leads us to our purpose. And I will tell you from experience that the what and the why makes the gig or the side hustle that you are on much easier to deal with. It puts things in perspective. That gig is not you. It is not what you are about. It's just what you're doing right now. So if you know that your calling, your what and why is to write, then I suggest you write even just for 15 minutes before you go into work. If you're a DP, then you need to shoot something, even if it's on your phone. If you're a producer, then you need to produce. Because even those things on the weekends when we do those web series, those music videos, those long-ass short films, and even though they are hard, but that feeds your spirit. If that feeds your what and your why, you should do it. And you should do it until your what and why can get you paid. So think about it. Think about your what and why. And then I want you to write it down. Really do this for me. I want you to write it down. And then I'm going to need you to tell somebody about it. Okay? That's how we become accountable. And these people in these rooms are great for it because this right here, these people are your tribe. Okay? They will help you stay accountable. So I've asked you about your what and why, so I figure it's only fair for you to tell, only fair for you? Only fair for me to tell you mine. I'm being all over the place. So I was a latchkey kid. Do you guys know what that is? Okay, so my parents worked until 7. Me and my brother were home from 3 to 7. And the only thing that I had was the TV was my babysitter, right? And remember, I'm 44, so back in the day, the shows that I had to watch were Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Three's Company, Charlie's Angels, that was devastating, Gilligan's Island, Brady Bunch. So all of those things that I would watch, and I realized that I was nowhere to be seen, and no one who looked even remotely like me was nowhere to be seen. Granted, there was Pat Morita that was in Happy Days, do you know what I'm saying? But that was super stereotypical with the butcher knife, whatever. And eventually Happy Days had Sticks, the black guy playing drums, whatever, okay? So that really affected me as a kid because I knew that that wasn't right. And then I would watch, and granted, yes, there were other shows that were on that did have people that looked like me, but, and remember, again, this is just me talking. I'm not talking for everybody, but for me, I was like, wow, I need a rich white guy to take care of me. Different strokes. Oh, or I got to take care of a nice white family. Give me a break. Oh, I got to take care of a nice white government family. Benson. Oh, I got to be a jive talking in this, in a, Chicago tenement building. Good times. So those were things, great shows, but I couldn't necessarily relate to them. So I knew that I wanted to make content that was inclusive. So that experience shaped the content that I would produce, and most of the movies and TV that I have done has been about this other, the marginalized, the people that are underrepresented. Now we have a name for it. We call it inclusive storytelling. So producing content and telling inclusive stories and making inclusive content is how is my what and why. It's how I think I can change the world. That's my truth. When people tell their stories to each other and are heard, magic happens. People bond, barriers dissolve, connections are made, trust increases. Knowledge is transmitted, wisdom is shared. A common language is birthed, and a deep interdependence is felt. And I totally stole that last section from a guy named Mitch Ditkoff from his Huffington Post blog, just because he said it way better than I ever could. So I'm just going to tell him myself and keep it real, okay? So it is my belief, because of my dumbed-down version, this is what I feel. So it is my belief that when you see a person accurately and fully represented, not the stereotype that is out there, it humanizes them. And if you are humanized, it is harder for people to treat you inhumanely. It's harder for people to be racist to you, imprison you, shoot you, rape you, ignore you, or fear you. So these stories that we make, or that I try to make, eventually become films and television and digital content that I try to influence the dominant culture and introduce ideas about how we can accept and live with each other and live together. And our stories, I feel, make us a part of each other and not apart from. So voila, that's my little what and why and how I feel I can change the world one story at a time. Okay. Oh, you guys are good. So your what and why does not need to be as grandiose or dramatic as mine. That's just my flow. I'm grandiose and dramatic. Yours can be, I'm a writer, and I want to write jokes so that when people come home and they don't have a shitty day. Or I'm an executive or a manager because I got a head for business, and I want to shepherd and champion storytellers. It could be anything, but I just feel that you got to know it. Okay? And so while I'm talking about inclusive storytelling, I'm going to do a little pivot and let me quickly address the elephant in the room. Not really an elephant, that's being dramatic. I told you, dramatic and grandiose. I've been, since Project Greenlight, I've been sort of trotted out places to talk about diversity and inclusion. I've traveled a bit over the world to talk about it and over many states and things of that nature, and it is an honor, and I am grateful, but I am exhausted. Because too many times I find that I'm talking in rooms like this. We're converted. We are the converted. We are either people of color or women, or we are woke white men, right? Woke white men, you better reach out. Okay, good. I'm like, come on, I'm giving you a pass. I'm giving you a pass. Okay, got it. So anyway, so I'm so tired of talking about it, but I know that it needs to be addressed. So my quick 2 cents is this, and I'm going to try to stay on topic to get through it, but I feel that we need to stop talking about it, and we need to be about it. Okay? I want us to stop asking for permission, and I want us to stand in our power and assume that I want to stop asking for permission, and I want to assume the position in the way your what and why has asked you to do. Okay? We know the dismal stats. We know that it's not fair. We know that it doesn't make any type of business sense to exclude us. We know this. So what are we going to do about it? It's time for us to step into action. And I talk about this a lot. We need to hire mentor, and invest. Okay? We need to hire one another. We are qualified, we are out there. We need to invest in each other's projects. Kickstarter, if you have a job that can greenlight a film, make that happen. We need to invest. And we also need to mentor one another. If there is somebody who's like, look, this is a field that you guys aren't really showing up in, then you need to mentor somebody and teach them those skills and mentor them until they're in a place where they can take on a position. That's how we do it. Hire, mentor, invest. And in my opinion, and this is where I'm going to lose a few of you, in my opinion, there's only been two ways that we have made change in systemic oppression. I'll say that again. There's only two ways in history that I have seen that has made change in systemic oppression. And that's what this is. That's what I believe. And that is shame and money. They work hand in hand. And we do a great job of taking to Twitter and putting people and situations and content on blast when we know that shit ain't right. We got that shame. And I know from experience, we got that shaming capability. And I know from experience when that oof, wow, okay thing went viral. Y'all made change. And I will, and I know that we came out like a vengeance of 1,000 furies when the man who I will not name calls people nasty women, calls bad people hombres, and thinks that all black people and Latinos live in the inner city, and it's bad, okay? Like, we know, like that's crazy talk. We shut that down immediately and shame it. He's still going, but we're gonna shut it down on voting day, okay? Thank you. That's all I'm gonna say, okay, and I'm gonna let it go. Okay. So anywho, that's what we're good at, right? But we also need to congratulate, celebrate, and support those people that are doing inclusiveness in front of and behind the camera. Now here's another one, and I had a hard time writing this, honestly, because I kind of lost myself, because it's really hard, and it's the money one. So we have to go one step further and not support financially the people, places, and things that are not inclusive, that participate in the oppression. Yes, you. That's what we got to do. Oh, it's going to keep going. So the next time there's a movie where there's a whitewashed Asian character, you know what you do? You don't go see it. And then you tell, it's going to get longer, and then you tell other people not to go see it. When there's another white savior movie that's out there, you do the same. You don't go see it, and you tell other people not to see it. And you know what? I think that we should go one step further. This is going back to the shaming. I think we should take it to the people who take those roles. We should take it to the people who direct those roles, to direct those films. I think we've got to take it to them. And we shouldn't see their movies or television shows. If we want to support inclusivity, then stop watching the shows that don't hire women or people of color in the writers' rooms or behind the scenes. And this one pains me because I heard Game of Thrones is one of those things. And I love Game of Thrones, but this is my personal sacrifice that I will do if you will do, okay? But don't go tweeting, I'm saying, okay, but that's the truth, that's what we got to do. And it's hurtful. I know Nicole's like, don't say that. You just blew your chances working with HBO again. Okay. Okay. But I'm telling you, it's hard, but I think this is what we got to do. There's no such thing anymore as innocent bystanding, man. It's time for us to be soldiers. That's right. It's time for us to be soldiers and put our talks into actions. We, my friends, we are the tastemakers. We are the disruptors. We are the creators. We can do anything if we put our minds to it. So let's assume that position, all right? We need to get into action and we need to soldier up. And no, I'm not saying take your AK and go to the studio or some shit like that. I'm not saying that. Don't put that on Twitter on me, okay? Don't do that. But what I am saying that our weapon is our voice. It is Twitter, Instagram, social media, Facebook, and whatever the hell else you millennials are doing now. I can't keep up. That is what we do. Our bullets are our dollars. Who gets them and who doesn't? Now that's all I gotta say about inclusivity, and that's the little drop the mic one. We're done, okay? Thank you. All right, so here comes the embarrassing part. All right, embracing your breakdown. Oh, okay. So, and there's a certain sort of grace that comes from falling apart. Now, I got many, many, many of these stories. I've been around for a really long time. But there's a big daddy of them all. There's a beast that I have that I compare everything to, which is before, that's what I compare it to, and it's horrible. So anyway, so be kind. I'm going to share with you, and it's not going to be flattering, and don't judge me. But you can, but please don't, you promised. Okay. So there was a point that I thought that I was a straight up baller, okay? Like, I thought you couldn't tell me nothing. I had a 3-room office, I had an assistant, I was making movies for HBO, I was traveling to Cannes and Monaco, I was in Black Enterprise magazine. What? My parents were happy, it was very exciting, all right? I was like 30 pounds lighter, I didn't have any fat back, like I was like all that in a bag of chips, okay? But most importantly, I had a film fund. What? Sure did. Had a film fund. I signed the papers. My team was like, yes, we are flush. We can finally stop being broke. Yes. And I was like, yeah, That's it. I was big deal. Big deal. And then one day I turned on the TV with my coffee feeling real super fly, and I saw everything fall away. And that was October 19th, 2007. You know what day that was? Black Friday, and not black as in good, but black as in bad. And literally, the hedge fund person who had, orchestrated this deal called me, and I had my little signed contract in my hand, because I was like, surely, that doesn't affect me, right? And he said, that piece of paper that you have in your hand is just that, a piece of paper. We are all out of a job. And I was all out of money and all out of time, and it was bad. And you want to know why it was bad? Because I was supposed to start shooting in 30 days. Yes, it's about to get real. So I not only was supposed to shoot one movie, I was supposed to shoot 2 movies back to back, because we were doing something, the economy of means, and making it all, and shooting it back to back. Okay. So now that should have been the end of this story, right? But it wasn't the end of the story. It actually starts an epic that actually spans years, and I call it The Darkness. So I was, oh my God, okay, I'm gonna say it. So I was so afraid of losing face and admitting that my circumstances had changed that I kept moving forward because I already lined up the shoot, and pulling the plug was so devastating on so many levels that I just couldn't face it. So I managed to downsize even further, slash and burn the budgets further, and I went forward, and I did it under the guise of, I really believe in these movies, and we're gonna be plucky, and we're gonna make it happen. But in hindsight, I should have regrouped, I should have stopped, regrouped, and came back at a better time. So, cut to, the movies are completed, on time and on budget, because that's how duly noted rolls, that's right. No matter what, right? But it was horrible, and it was a relentless grind. Now, the Hollywood ending to this story would be that those movies came out, and they set the world on fire. They won Sundance and LA Film Festival, and everybody won them. We got big distribution deals. None of that happened. Quite the opposite happened. And I started to take every disappointment, every obstacle, every setback, and I put them in my pocket like little rocks. I hid them away out of shame. I hid them away so that people wouldn't be upset, but it was really so I wouldn't let people down in my mind, but it really was, I was just so embarrassed, and I was really ashamed. And I didn't want people to stop believing in me, because if you stop believing in me, then I might stop believing in me. And that wasn't gonna happen. So it was a disaster on all fronts. The recession was in full swing, and nobody was buying anything, but I somehow got someone to buy for pennies on the dollar one movie, so that my investors saw a small return on investment, and then that movie really never saw the light of day. It got buried. Now, the other movie, and so a rock goes in the pocket there. And so the other movie, the one I thought for sure was gonna set the world on fire, that movie came back labeled as racist and misogynistic. What? I I know, right? I was like, I am black and a woman. And they were like, your movie is racist and misogynistic. And it was horrifying because it went against everything that I had, right? Everything that I had, and it went against my what and why. And this was horrible because people either loved the film, like 5 people, or people hated the film, everybody. And these weren't people, and these were people that were my friends. These were like my friends. I've been around a long time, right? And I've done the festival circuit a lot. And I was like, I'm gonna thug this in. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna get my, And they were like, girl, no. It's horrible. And I was like, but you've been in my house for Thanksgiving. I was like, and they're like, no. That movie's a real problem. It's racist and misogynistic. And I even went to the LA Film Festival, and they were like, which is my home, right? Film Independent's my home. And it's bad when your home is like, girl, no. We can't, no, that's not gonna happen. And it was horrible because truly what was so shitty is that they had a point. What? That's what I said. It was like one of those pictures that you look at and like at the front, it looks like it's a beautiful rose. Then you look at it from the side and it's like a battlefield massacre. So I did that look and I was like, oh no. All right, it was a whole different picture. So the director, who was one of my best friends at the time, we started battling it out and we became at each other's throats, right? Because we couldn't agree as to how to fix it, one, right? And he was like, look, this is a movie that we made. You were down for it then, you'd be down for it now. Why are you changing up? And you know what? He had a point. He, too, had a point. Another rock in the pocket, rock in the pocket, rock in the pocket, right? So just, woohoo, wrapping it up? Not really, not at all. So it was the recession. Both of my movies tanked. I had to move my office back to my house by 5225 Wilshire Boulevard, the Samsung building, bye-bye. So that was another rock in my pocket. And I still had to go out and pretend that everything is fine, because if anybody knew that what was really going on, or they could smell failure, or worse, desperateness, that's the killer. I was done. So that's rock after rock after rock. So when people asked me how I was like, fine, I'm great, I'm badass, yes. And the more chipper, and some of you were there for that. So some of you were like, oh, this rings a bell, right? Yeah. So the more chipper I became, the faker I became with the more rocks in my pocket. My investors were cool, but eventually they were like, yo, we getting our money back? And I was like, yes, the distributor's gonna cut that check any moment, and I'm gonna sell that movie right away. Ooh, just like dancing as fast as I could. So I started taking gigs that were completely against my what and my why, right? Just to keep everybody afloat. So I was dying on the inside, another rock in the pocket, right? But you know who's more gangster about getting their money back than investors? It's not the DGA, not SAG, not IATSE, not even the Teamsters. You know who it is? Because even they don't mess with these people. The IRS. Yeah, we about to go there. So the IRS is gangster. And they do not care if your movie didn't make any money. They don't care about your what and your why. They don't care that your films didn't like tear Sundance asunder. And that was real devastating for me. Because you know what? Here's something that you don't know until you're in it. You're gonna owe taxes on those properties no matter what. Hi. And because I had to be boss hog, right? Nobody knows anything. I was the managing member, so everything hit me. The buck stopped with me. So, did you think I pulled it together and called the IRS and told them? I decided that, and I can't believe I'm telling you, I decided that I was gonna stop paying my personal taxes too. I know, right? It's so bad, it's so bad. So, right, okay, and I know I'm talking long. Okay, so it was so bad. So I decided, I was like, because I was depressed. I mean, I wasn't depressed enough to go actually see somebody about it, but I was depressed from 2007 to 11, pretty much. Yeah, 2016, this is no joke, right? Okay, so the death blow comes one day when I'm paying bills, which I only paid when the envelopes were red. Y'all ever do that? Like that's when I pay bills, right? And so I opened up my bank statement and I was like, what has happened? I have been robbed. I have been robbed. Sorry. The IRS will get their money, honey. And I was like, what? And I didn't want to be put in jail like Wesley Snipes because I wouldn't survive. I wouldn't. I swear to God, I'm not kidding. So I decided that I would stop paying my mortgage so I could start paying off the IRS. What? So that was a good idea, right? Stop paying your mortgage. But you know who's almost as gangster as the IRS? JP Morgan Chase. Yeah, they too don't play. So I'm about to wrap up. Now I'm about to wrap up this sad, sad tale. But in a quick snapshot, 2 films underperformed, no real return on investment. I'm all up in my feelings about being the only Black indie female producer, so I can't have the perception of failing. Note to self, I was not the only Black indie female producer, okay? I just felt that way. That's my perception. Right? But what I really did is I didn't want to look bad and I didn't want to be embarrassed, but I was about to be foreclosed on. The IRS was coming for me hard. I couldn't ask my investors for any more money because I felt terrible about the films not performing. The director and I of the film that should have were at each other's throats. And I wasn't suicidal. However, I wouldn't have minded if a bus ran over me. You ever have that moment? Like, that's real talk. So all of these things were rock in the pocket, rock in the pocket, rock in the pocket. I couldn't move. I was actually paralyzed. And then I got a phone call from my investor, yes, who wanted to have dinner with me. No good was about to come from that, right? And that was from, okay, that was so, okay. But, where am I? So I went to dinner with her. And bless her heart, she's a psychic. Shut up. She's a psychic, or at the very least, she's intuitive, but she calls psychic. And she saw right through me, real talk. And she said some things to me that blew my mind. And she said, you know what, honey? A closed mouth doesn't get fed. And I was like, what? She said, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. If you don't open your mouth and ask for what you need, you will never get it. I was like, ugh. Like, okay. And then she reminded me about my what and my why, because that's what she invested in, right? Not really necessarily making it, thank God, but that's what she invested in. And then she talked to me about perception and how one's perception can get totally out of whack, right, with how things really are, and how we get locked into something that isn't true. And then she told me, you know what, you should write this down. Write down what you really want, and if what you're doing right now is getting you toward it, if this facade that you're doing is getting you toward that. Now, I never thanked Cynthia Stafford because I was too embarrassed. I actually was crying at the dinner table. You know what? That's not a good look, to cry in front of your investor. Yeah. So I never thanked Miss Cynthia Stafford for that because I was too embarrassed. And I don't even know if she remembers having this conversation. But I just want to say publicly, I thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was advice that got me taking the rocks out of my pocket and the courage to be honest about what is going on and what it really looks like being an independent producer in Hollywood. And once I started talking about it, I came back to like Film Independent and I started talking to you all about it. And you know what happened? Everybody has a story like this. Everybody suffered some debilitating disappointment like I had. And you know what happened? I didn't feel so alone, all right? What I learned is, the trick was not to let it turn into failure by not learning from it, by not getting up from it, and by talking about it. More importantly, I had to take stock of what was. Ooh, that was a hard one. Not what I wanted it to be, what it should have been, what it could have been, but what it was. And that was instrumental. I had to eat a big piece of humble pie and empty my pockets. So the takeaway from this, there's a lot, pay your taxes. The takeaway from this is you can't bank on your films becoming hits no matter what your track record is. You got to talk to your business partners every step of the way, even if you're ashamed or embarrassed that things aren't going the right way. Call the IRS ahead of time. They don't play. It's better to save your ass than your face. Big one, protect yourself financially. I'm gonna say that again, protect yourself financially. There's a reason why on those airplane videos, they have you putting your mask on first before you help someone else. That's true. And there was a riddle to me that I could manage other people's money and resources to the penny, to the line item, so that they never had to go out of pocket. It was a riddle to me that I could do all that, but I could let my own house get in total disarray and close to foreclosure. Like that was a trip. But not anymore. Once I embraced the situation, I stopped denying it. I looked at it. I shifted my perception of what success was and what making it was. There was a joy that I found in being right-sized. I'm gonna say that again. There was a joy that I found in being right-sized. I was no better than anybody else, but then that also meant I was no worse than anybody else, right? There's great power in that. And I also learned from all of this, and then I moved on, got the rocks out of my pockets, and I moved on. And it wasn't fast, I'm hard-headed, so this lesson took years. I'm out of debt now, just so you know, in case you were wondering, IRS, I'm still free, I can talk about it. Okay, but I'm sharing this with you in hopes that something resonates for you so that you don't have to go through what I went through. In closing, yes, your perception of who you are and your place in the world, your purpose, your what and your why, and your experience is powerful. It can and should and will shift from time to time, but it will always be yours. That is your power. If you get anything out of this talk, know that you are not alone. You deserve to be here. You are in the right place. The mistakes you have made or will make have been made by somebody else, and it did not devastate them. A closed mouth does not get fed. Ask for help. Ask for help. Look to the left and to the right of you. This is your mighty tribe. These are your people at Film Independent. We are not your competition. We are your hype men. We are your support group. No, we're not gonna braid your hair and tell you that you're pretty. We're not that kind of support group. But we are here to support you. And more importantly, we will speak the truth to you if you ask. We will give you guidance if you seek it. And while we can't help you from falling apart, life happens on life's terms, but we will be here with open arms when you get back, ready to listen and learn from your life lessons. That's what we do here. Thank you so much.
I've never been to this award show before, and independent films are my favorite films, or the films that inspire me, so to be included is really special.
I've always wanted to come. It's my first time, so I'm pretty thrilled.
It feels amazing and kind of surreal. And